Well, here we are. We're next to the house. This is what I'll be planting today. Just worked it up with the disc. Just had a nice rain in this clay ground. The moisture helped, got enough moisture in the ground to break up the ground a little bit. Before the rain, it was like concrete. Didn't really break up that good. You can see my trees right here. All this winter rye mixed in the tree rows. This was all seeded into the soybeans last September. This will all be no-till soybeans for at least this year. This might be the last year I plant soybeans in between the tree rows. These pines are starting to spread, get pretty big in here. I'll just be broadcasting these in by hand, and then discing them in and then dragging it off to level it off, and that'll be pretty good for this spot.
Pretty good. Looks pretty good.
Didn't even use all that. That was like maybe double that. See, they're pretty well spaced out. Plant here, plant there. What are you doing?
I gotta put some more in. I didn't get to put it in.
That took literally 1 minute to plant this. I mean, it's a really small spot. With the old corn planter going back and forth, probably took like 10 minutes. Pretty good spacing, not too thick, not too thin. Looks about right to me. Planted over an acre, broadcasted last year.
You could probably put a little thicker on the edge here, though.
Yeah, I might do a little thicker on the edge because it's not as tilled up here anyways. Not gonna get covered up as good.
I don't hardly see any there, just a couple here and there.
Yeah, they're here, look at them all. See right here, it's covering them up pretty good. Here's where I haven't gone over yet. A lot of them still showing. Just a couple of them still showing. Well, this is the area I'll be planting today, right in the backyard at home. And here's some broadcasted soybeans from probably 2 weeks ago. But this is all gonna be no-till right into this standing rye. This was soybeans last year. You can see a little bit of the soybean stubble, and the rye is still in here from last spring as well. This is probably maybe the last year I'll be able to plant this. These pine trees are really starting to spread into the trails. No matter what happens, I'm gonna definitely seed it into rye when these soybeans are dropping their leaves. And then eventually one of these years, I'll just seed clover into the whole thing and crush the rye down. Last year, there was only a few weeds, a few scattered weeds in this. I barely even had to spray it. I just walked through with the backpack sprayer. I maybe used like 2 gallons to spray this area. Just hit some of the areas that there was a few weeds coming up. This rye is a really good weed suppressant. There's rain scheduled. It's on its way here right now, so I might not be able to spray this today. You'd always want to spray the rye just to get a good kill, even though you can see it's going out to seed right now. It's about perfect, right when the seed's in its doughy stage. You don't want to wait till the stuff's starting to dry down, because then some of this stuff could germinate on the ground. Yeah, these maple trees are getting huge. Anyways, I'm gonna start broadcasting seed. You always want to go a little bit heavy on these no-till sections because you're not going to get nearly as good germination as you would on the broadcasted on tilled ground. So want to go a little bit heavy, but you don't want to go too heavy. Stuff's all about 5 feet high. This ground is just like concrete, hard packed clay. Looks like there's definitely still a lot of moisture in here. Maybe it's definitely more moisture in here. Ground's darker than what it is out there. But anyways, I'm gonna start broadcasting. All right, here's a quick little sample. You can see there is quite a few beans down here, but look at all the ones on top of the leaves. There's a whole bunch of leaf debris from these oak trees and all the other trees around. All this debris from last year's rye. Like right there's a ton, probably too many, but you can see I just got them everywhere in here. If I remember correctly, you know, this is about how thick I put them in last year, and they turned out just about perfect. Like you can see that one's gonna grow. That one may or may not grow. I mean, they're not really, I'd say about 60% of them are touching the soil right now. After you drive through here, I mean, it'll maybe knock a few of these down to the ground, but it takes a lot of moisture to germinate these, even the ones that are straight on the ground, because it is concrete ground, this solid clay. But we're supposed to be getting a lot of moisture this weekend, so that's why I've got to get them in now. Probably won't be able to spray them today. It's already sprinkling right now. But you can see, just look at all that debris. Nothing is going to grow on that. Those ones might germinate. These ones probably won't because they're not really touching the soil, but now they kind of are. So after you drive through here a little bit, it should get some of them closer to the soil. All right, so I got the majority of it all knocked down. It took only about 15 minutes. It's starting to sprinkle a little harder. Rain's definitely coming, so I'll have to spray this probably sometime, maybe even next week. There's rain chances tomorrow and on Monday, which is good. We need the rain to germinate this stuff. So, as you can tell, a lot of leaf debris in here. A lot of last year's rye still, but you can see these seeds there right down to the soil, which is looking good. But it's gonna, I threw a lot of seeds down, and I know not everyone is gonna grow, because if I were to throw it that thick on tilled ground, it would be way too thick. I just know with this method, you gotta definitely throw out a little extra seed. Like that's not gonna grow. That one definitely ain't gonna grow. Look at all these leaves in here, you know? It probably would help if this was more of an open ground with less trees around. But anyways, we'll see how this turns out. Well, here we are. Right here's the broadcasted tiny little circle plot. A lot of deer browse. This is just a tiny little spot, but I got beans over there, no-till beans into the standing rye, and then I got more beans down there. But man, we haven't seen deer browse on our beans here in our backyard like this in a couple years. It's It's been pretty good the last couple years, but man, they are really hitting them. The good thing is, you know, they're past the most crucial point. As long as they keep nipping them off like this and they don't screw too much with this new growth, they should grow. It's not like an insane amount of browse, which is holding them back, but you can see these small ones right here. Like, this is how big they all should be. It should almost be canopied over at this point, but you can see in some of these better areas where they haven't been nipped off as bad. But you see these smaller ones, these are ones that got nipped right there in the center when they were pretty young. So some of these plants are pretty small and they're trying to regrow, like that one right there. Got nipped off right above the cotyledons, and then now it's got 2 shoots. But yeah, they're looking all right. All right, so here we are. Hopefully you can hear me. The road's pretty loud. We just got a lot of rain. Well, not a lot, but we got a pretty decent rain this morning. It's been quite a bit since you've last seen this plot here. You can see there's quite a bit of deer browse, just like what there is in that bean plot and the beans down there. Just a ton of deer browse on our beans this year. You can see all these ones right here completely gone. Those will not grow back. These ones that got nipped above the cotyledons, they're growing back a little bit, but that's actually a good thing the deer came in here and thinned them out, because I actually did end up putting them in too thick, because I was not expecting to get like 2 to 3 inches of rain right after planting. So pretty much everything that I threw down grew, but they definitely thinned out the beans quite a bit, and the ones they haven't touched are looking pretty good. This is the shady side of the plot right here. I guess this whole plot is starting to get kind of shady. These trees are getting pretty big in here, but I mean, not a stitch of weeds at all coming. There's hardly a weed in the whole plot. I can, you know, you look down, this thatch, you get a couple years of this no-till program, it really holds the weeds back pretty good. I probably won't even have to spray. I mean, right here's one grass plant right there. So yeah, it's looking really good as expected. Last year, like I said, we had really spotty germination in here. I'd actually set up the sprinkler. I mean, luckily we're this close to home. I had to sprinkle water this last June, because last June we got like no rain for 3 weeks. This year's been completely different. Just got a nice rain this morning, as you can tell. These beans right here are looking pretty good too. These things are really starting to take off. But as you can tell, lots of deer browse on these ones too, for some reason this year. Last year we had hardly any deer browse. Anyways, there'll be one more update to this plot. See a few grass weeds coming in here, but not much really. So yeah, I'll see you in the next update, I guess. Well, here we are, final update on this plot. It's been a long time ago I planted these beans. They're almost waist high in there, as you can tell. They're my best beans in the backyard here this year. So this right here was that little tilled up spot that we had beans last year, and there wasn't much, you know, all the corn areas we plowed under, all that stuff over there we plowed under. This we just disked up and broadcast them by hand. And then right next to it here's the no-till stuff. This stuff's really starting to come along pretty nice. Hardly any weeds in there. You can see all the rye in here still holding in. Did a good job holding in moisture. I got a good rain, like a day or two after planting this, like a good 2 to 3 inch rain. So that's why last year I had issues getting germination in here, because last year was so dry. But you can see I'm trying to get to it right here. There's one weed out here. Right here. That was one water hemp weed that I pulled out right there. You can see pretty good, really good weed control. I just walked through here with the backpack sprayer when the stuff was about shin high, sprayed a couple grasses out, sprayed a few broadleafs here and there, and I only had to pull out maybe like 10 water hemp plants other than that one I just pulled out and saw now. So like we got pretty clay ground, pretty much almost solid clay ground, really hard. Over at my grandparents' farm where I tried this rye method like this and just do whatever I do no-till out there, it doesn't even turn into much because there's so many weeds and so much water hemp out there. It's getting harder and harder every year to do no-till out there. But in areas like this where you have really good weed control year after year, very few weeds, the no-till obviously works. I mean, look at how good these beans look. The broadcasted plot down there was planted, you know, maybe like 2-3 weeks before this. So that's why these ones in here are just, they're just starting to make pods. You can see the pods right there. If I can get it to focus. Then they got other flowers on them. And they're about shin to maybe knee high in the tallest spots, like right here. Whereas this plot up here, I don't really want to walk in there. This is a pretty thick section of beans. I'll just do more damage than good if I go in here, but right here, they're about thigh high, so really, really good. You can see these ones. They're just a little bit ahead, you know, they got pods on them too. Man, is it dark in there. 100% canopy closure, no weeds. There was a few water hemp plants here and there, maybe like 5 in this plot, not much of all, really at all. And like I said, these ones were pretty thick. I had really good, really fast canopy closure. But yeah, it's looking pretty good. 2 completely different methods. Those planted 2-3 weeks prior to these ones. Last year, these beans looked really nice in here too. So yeah, I'll be planning on doing the same thing. I'll be putting in the winter rye into these beans and probably doing beans in here again next year. This is 2 years of thatch buildup. It hasn't even really decomposed. So yeah, just a nice little comparison video, I guess. But man, I just can't believe this. Super dense. These things will easily be waist high by the end of the year right here. But I really wish I could get better weed control out at the farm, whenever like I said, I just really have, no matter what I do, no-till, tilling, I end up with just as many weeds when I no-till out there as I do when I till. And here, I'm able to, you know, to do these no-till plots with really, really good success and no weed, and hardly any weeds, because it's just a totally different type of soil. Not as wet, drier, clay. Out there, you know, at my grandparents' farm where I have lots of issues with water hemp, it's just sandy loam, really dark, high organic matter soil, areas where the water hemp naturally grows and thrives, and it's just almost impossible to grow food plots out there without some of that stuff being out there. So yeah, this looks pretty good for no-till. Pretty weed free. I hardly even needed to spray it. Like I said, it was just a few weeds in here. Yeah, I'll see you in the next video, guys.